So, yesterday I explained how China, via their statements and the acts of Xi Jinping, their premier, now re elected, and other officials, have been basically embracing capitalism in the face of losing their manufacturing clout as companies like Apple start fleeing to Vietnam and India, COVID zero policies, a real estate bubble, and subsequent collapse, and saber rattling really left China looking like a hostile place for business. And in recent months, the Chinese Communist leadership has made it clear they've tasted capitalism and they want more. In fact, Apple's Tim Cook just met with Xi Jinping, and Elon Musk just announced a new megapack facility in Shanghai, which expanding in Shanghai and China is actually something that I've been encouraging since about April of 2022. And the reason I've been encouraging it is because I know that China has tasted capitalism and they want more of it. They're like, please give me more, give me more. I got to have more capitalism. So I thought, gosh, that would be a fantastic and easy place for you to build more factories, Tesla, especially since places like Berlin, Germany is substantially more difficult to build, or California. Now, this comes as, obviously China brags about how successful Tesla is in China with their original Tesla Shanghai facility. Really, Tesla is like an advertisement for how great doing business is in China. Well, I thought cooler heads would prevail this time around, and much like last August, Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan in August, and then China conducted incredible military drills and potentially at one point launched missiles over Taiwan and completely encircled Taiwan with basically military exercises. And I thought this time around, maybe cooler heads would prevail and we wouldn't see those sorts of drills again. And so yesterday morning, when we spoke about my thoughts on China, I said, I think, China's going to be a little bit more chill this time around. Look, they're not conducting any exercises in the face of the president of Taiwan meeting Kevin McCarthy in California. Well, I was wrong. Almost within hours of my video on China, I was able to pitch a 69% off CPI coupon code for the programs I'm building your wealth, link down below, which you can now use buy now, pay later for. But then also, we got this chart here, which shows that China is once again encircling Taiwan with military exercises being conducted across the median line of the Taiwan Strait, and you have military fleets surrounding Taiwan. Military exercises are scheduled for April 8th to April 10th. These exercises will be conducted over these days, and Taiwan has reported that there are 71 People's Liberation Army aircraft, 9 warships, all of them crossing the median line in the Taiwan Straits. And these units are conducting simulated strikes on designated targets that they're establishing in the territorial waters of Taiwan, right outside of Taiwan. Now they're a little closer or a little further away than those territorial water lines. You can kind of see that. See that blue outline, the territorial waters? The last time China conducted drills, they were much closer to Taiwan and much more, dare I say, disrespectful in terms of where they were launching missiles. Now, none of this is, of course, respectful, but the last time was very severe and got a lot of press attention. However, we have some facts here. According to Bloomberg, the drills this time seem to be different. They seem to be, quote, substantially smaller in scale and don't include the imposition of any exclusive zones in airspace or waters. Now, remember, China potentially flew missiles over Taiwan in August. That is not what we are seeing now. And so, while initially I said, crap, I'm wrong. I said China's not conducting drills. This is great. They're enjoying capitalism and they're trying to be a little bit more reasonable. Instead of saber rattling so loudly, scaring people away, they're going to be more relaxed this time around. Well, then initially I thought, crap, I'm wrong. Here come the drills just hours after I posted my video. But now, when I look a little bit deeper, maybe I'm actually not wrong. And maybe I'm biased, but I'm willing to be wrong. But what I think is happening now is largely symbolic. See, I think China, and this is my opinion, China has the belief that if you poke China, we will punch the air to make sure you know we're awake. Think about that. It's kind of like China gets poked by this Taiwanese president visiting Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker of the House, the third person in line to the presidency. China's like, all right, punched in the air. And they're doing that because they want to make the world to know, don't mess with China. Now, that's actually very different from the embarrassment of America right now in the Middle East, which is not the fault of our troops in the Middle East. It's the fault of our administration. And I would say this no matter which administration it is, left or right. Y'all know that I do my best to be in the middle. And the reality is, right now in America, according to the Wall Street Journal, out of 78 times our military has been attacked, we have only responded 3 times with force. That is embarrassing. That is an embarrassing ratio. Violent criminals in the Middle East know that they have less than a 5 to 6% chance, actually less than 5% chance, of being responded to by the US military, even as they shoot rockets at our Americans and our contractors in the Middle East. It's pathetic. So I believe that China is actually holding drills as potentially the people would expect of China. Not me, I didn't expect it, so I will take the L on that. But I actually just revised sort of my thesis and thinking, okay, well, maybe that's just the way China is. The fact that these drills are not escalatory, though, and the fact that they're actually a very watered down version of the drills we saw in August shows that capitalistic sign of improvement that we were looking at yesterday. So I maintain that my thesis holds that in the next decade, it is more likely, in my opinion, that China will partner with Taiwan to grow their economies and their GDP substantially together than it is likely that China actually invades Taiwan. That is my belief. This means, in my opinion, China is not actually flip-flopping here on their goals of capitalism. They're just staying true to their nature. I actually call what happens in China, I came up with a phrase for this. I call what China is doing socialism with opportunistic capitalism. It's kind of like everything is built on central planning and socialism, but they throw the salt and pepper of capitalism on top. And as a result, they have to maintain their impression in the worldwide, sort of in the world theater that, hey, don't mess with China. How dare you, question our territorial integrity? China owns Taiwan, and Taiwan belongs to us, right? That appears to be what China is trying to say. And they have to keep that impression going. But do we really think that they're increasing the odds of going to war? In my opinion, the answer to that is no. And the difference in the drills that we're seeing is highly exemplary or exemplifies exactly this thesis. Now, we'll see. Obviously, I expect over the next few days, we'll see how these drills end up. I think they'll end up very benign. I actually think they'll get relatively little press coverage. I actually think China doesn't necessarily want there to be a lot of press coverage around these. Of course, they'll be covered. But look at this. The drills were orchestrated conveniently around the same time as Tesla is announcing a new deal to build a factory with Tesla for megapacks. And I think that actually reiterates my thesis because look at that. They timed the drill for when they could announce a big capitalistic announcement. Take a look at this. When you go to the front page of Bloomberg, not only are you going to see on screen my 69% off coupon code for the programs on building your wealth, you can now use buy now, pay later for. But look at this. What do you have on the front page of Bloomberg? The very first article, Tesla to build new Shanghai factory. Tesla tripled Austin workforce. A lot of Tesla information here. U.S. consumer prices. Where do we have China here? Where's China? I see no China. I see nothing about the China war yet. I mean, I would expect to see something on the front page. Let's do a find. China. Look at this. Look at this on the front page of Bloomberg. Airbus to build new China jet factory as Apple pulls back. Tesla to build new factory in China. Apple at heart of U.S. selective decoupling. Reality check. How influential is China right now? Look at this. There's nothing. There's nothing on the front page of Bloomberg about the military exercises. Now, in my opinion, that is actually exactly what China wants. For anyone paying attention, they are conducting military exercises. But for everybody else, what do they care about? Not this. In fact, look at this. Okay, watch this. This is incredible. You can't see anything. There we go. Okay. So watch this. This is the South China Morning Post. Look at this. This is Chinese propaganda. Okay. What do they have here? Macron trip hailed as success with the French president, right? These are your front page stories. Why the US ideological struggle against China must not succeed. Okay, Chinese propaganda. So the most important stories to them are positive relations with France, and still winning against their enemies, though, right? Let's see. Here we go. On here you have as sort of a byline, China's PLA simulates Taiwan strikes on day 2 of joint sharp sword drills. Fantastic. I'm actually surprised they're not pitching the Tesla deal as much here. I don't know. Maybe have they not woken up yet? See, they actually aren't on their propaganda site. They're not pitching it as much. That's very interesting. It shows you a little bit of the difference between Chinese propaganda and American propaganda. In China, they're like, look, we're meeting with world leaders and we're conducting exercises, and the US won't succeed. But then you go to US media, and what are we getting today? Nothing about the Kevin McCarthy meeting or the Nancy Pelosi drama we had last time. Instead, about how much people are actually building, like Airbus and Tesla, in China. It's very interesting. I mean, let's look at the Airbus piece for a moment. Airbus to build a new China jet factory as Apple pulls back. Airbus will double its production capacity in China of its top-selling jet in a bold bet on on future demand in one of the world's largest aviation markets. The European plane maker will add a second final assembly line for the A320 narrow bodies at an existing factory in China. And so they're adding a second assembly line. Got it. Okay, so they're expanding an existing factory. The move is a boost for Chinese manufacturing as other firms like Apple rethink production. Now, they've been regularly talking about going to Vietnam or India, but who knows? Tim Cook just met in China. Maybe they'll expand in both places. Who knows? Airbus, however, looked set to leave China without a new plane order during Macron's 3-day state visit, despite intensive talks over the past weekend with Chinese customers. Bloomberg reported this week that the company was now targeting a follow-on order that would include A350s and possibly A330s. Now, Airbus remained optimistic about winning business in China. All right, very interesting. So it's an interesting way to think about what's going on in China. Nobody knows with certainty, right? And that's what I want to be clear about as well. Nobody knows with absolute certainty. But I believe the fears of an invasion in Taiwan by China are relatively overblown. I agree with Ronald here in the chat that China is very calculating. I completely agree about that. Shurish here says China is scared from India. India is the great hedge to China unless China flip-flops and becomes buddies with India. That's true, but India knows China can't be trusted. Shurish says, I don't think the situation will escalate. We lost Macron during the Trump presidency. Oh, Guy Ledouche says, Kevin, war is inevitable. Yeah, I disagree with that. Well, I mean, I appreciate the thought, but I disagree with it. So anyway, that's my thesis and gives you a follow-up on what's going on with China and this potential fear-mongering around an invasion in Taiwan. I don't think it's going to happen, but we're going to continue to study it. And I think every day that we continue to study it, we could see whether we're getting closer or further away. I think the de-escalation in military exercises relative to Nancy Pelosi's visit are a very clear indication that China is not interested in escalating military exercises beyond what they've done in the past. If anything, they're de-escalating. At the same time as de-escalating, what are they doing? Well, they're announcing new factory plans with Tesla and Airbus. So anyway, my thoughts on China.